Have you ever felt completely safe with someone, only to wake up one day and realize they've disappeared from your life, without a word? It's confusing, right? One moment, they're your emotional anchor. The next, they're just gone. No fights. No drama. No goodbye. Just silence. Now, here's a question. What if the kindest, softest people you know are also the most dangerous when pushed too far? That's not a myth. That's Cancer. Yes, Cancer, the zodiac sign everyone thinks they understand. Gentle. Caring. Sensitive. But trust me, that's only half the story. Because behind that warmth, behind those nurturing hugs, there's something much deeper. A hidden strength. A protective shell. A mind that remembers everything. In today's video, I'm going to take you inside the heart and mind of Cancer. Not just to understand them, but to understand what true emotional boundaries really look like. Why do they love so deeply? Why do they walk away so silently? And why, once they're gone, nothing can bring them back? Stay with me. Because what you're about to discover might change how you see not only Cancer, but yourself. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're into astrology, psychology, and personal growth. Give this video a like, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Ready? Let's begin. When a Cancer loves you, it's never halfway. They don't offer small pieces of themselves. They give you their entire soul. Their time, their care, their emotional energy, all wrapped up in quiet acts of love you might not even notice. It could be as simple as remembering your favorite coffee order, or texting just to ask how you're feeling after a tough day. But what most people don't realize is that every small act is a huge investment for them. Cancers love deeply. Not because they're weak, but because love is their nature. It's how they find meaning. It's how they feel alive. Now, here's where things get complicated. Once you betray that trust, or neglect that love, something changes. Quietly. Without drama. Without shouting. They don't fight for attention. They don't beg for explanations. They simply disappear. And when they do, it hurts. Because you realize too late how much of their heart they'd given you. This isn't a game to them. Cancers are not performers looking for applause. They are caregivers. Protectors. Silent emotional warriors. But even warriors get tired. Think about it. How many times have you pushed someone's kindness to the limit, assuming they'd always be there? This is where Cancers teach us a powerful life lesson. When they withdraw, they're not punishing you. They're protecting themselves. It's not bitterness. It's self-respect. That's why, once their emotional boundary is crossed, their exit is permanent. And the silence that follows is louder than any argument could ever be. I've seen people confused, heartbroken, asking, "Why won't they answer my calls? Why are they acting like I never existed?" Because to a Cancer, when love becomes a wound, the only way to heal is to leave. It's not revenge. It's survival. But what's happening inside their mind during this process? Why does it feel so sudden? The answer goes deeper than just behavior. It's about their core psychological wiring. Cancers are nurturers by instinct. They are emotional caregivers. From childhood, many of them take on the role of emotional support in their families. Sometimes even parenting their own parents. So when they meet someone they love, they naturally fall into the role of protector. They'll feed you when you're sick. They'll cheer you on when you're doubting yourself. They'll quietly shoulder your burdens when you can't carry them. It feels safe. It feels like home. But there's something else happening behind that softness. Cancers are constantly watching. Sensing. They can feel the energy shift before you speak. If they sense betrayal, their reaction is not slow. It's instant. One day you're their priority. The next day, you're invisible. And the scariest part? You might not even know what you did. Because once their emotional radar detects betrayal, the Cancer retreats. Not as a strategy, but as a reflex. This isn't about punishing the other person. This is about saving themselves. Imagine a mother hen protecting her chicks. She'll risk her life for them. But if she realizes the danger comes from you, she'll turn her back without hesitation. That's how fierce, yet fragile, their trust is. What makes Cancers impossible to control is that once the emotional door closes, there's no way back in. No apologies. No grand gestures. No promises can unlock that door again. And here's a psychological insight most people miss. Cancers don't leave because they stop loving. They leave because love itself has become unsafe. And in their mind, protecting their heart is more important than preserving any relationship. Now let's talk about something even more mysterious. Cancers can sense your emotions, even when you say nothing. Have you ever had a friend who knew you were sad before you said a word? That's Cancer energy. They walk into a room and feel the temperature shift. They know when you're anxious. They know when you're hiding pain. And yes, they know when you're lying. Even if you think you're good at hiding it, you're not fooling them. But here's the thing. They won't confront you immediately. They'll pretend not to notice. They'll smile. Nod. Keep listening. But inside, they're taking notes. Emotional notes. Every inconsistency in your story. Every moment your energy doesn't match your words. They're not plotting revenge. They're waiting for the truth to reveal itself. Because for Cancer, truth always comes out. They just let you be the one to reveal it, in your own time. And when the time comes, they vanish. No explanation. No argument. Just silence. What makes them so hard to manipulate is that you never know how much they know. Their emotional intelligence is not loud. It's silent. Calculated. And once they see your mask, they never unsee it. You might think they've forgiven you. And maybe they have. But they'll never trust you the same way again. Because in their mind, you showed your true colors. And once they've seen that, they can't forget. Now, here's something that might hit close to home. Cancers are often the people you run to when your world falls apart. They listen when no one else does. They hold space for your emotions without judgment. They comfort you with a presence so calm, you feel like you can breathe again. But what happens when you consistently ignore them? When you take their support for granted? Slowly, they begin to close. It doesn't happen overnight. At first, they'll give you the benefit of the doubt. But every time you dismiss their needs, every time you overlook their feelings, their heart closes a little more. Until one day, it's completely shut. And you won't even realize when it happened. They won't announce it. They won't beg for attention. They'll simply stop showing up. And when you finally notice their absence, it's often too late. Because for Cancers, mirroring your energy is not about punishment. It's about emotional protection. They reflect how you treat them. If you give warmth, they return it tenfold. If you give coldness, they become ice. They won't argue. They won't explain. They'll simply let their absence speak. And trust me, it speaks louder than words ever could. In the end, Cancers teach us this simple truth. Kindness is not weakness. Silence is not surrender. Sometimes, silence is self-respect. Cancers forgive easily, but they never forget. That's something people often misunderstand about them. You might think everything's fine after an apology. You might believe the problem is behind you. But deep inside, it's not. A Cancer remembers every hurt. Every broken promise. Every moment they felt ignored or betrayed. They store it quietly, not out of revenge, but as a form of self-protection. Think about how many times you've said "I'm sorry" and assumed that meant things were back to normal. With a Cancer, things might look normal on the outside. But beneath their smile, they're connecting dots. They'll say it's okay. They'll even act like it is. But when that same mistake happens again, when that same pattern repeats, they'll remember. Not out of bitterness, but because they've learned from the pain. For Cancers, memory is a survival skill. In relationships, this means one thing: if you hurt them once, they'll forgive. If you repeat it, they'll leave. Quietly. Without warning. Their loyalty is sacred. It's not something they give to everyone. When they choose you, they're choosing with their heart, not their mind. They trust deeply, sometimes even blindly. But once that trust is broken, something inside them shatters. And what's broken can't be repaired. This is why Cancers are often misunderstood after betrayal. People say, "But you forgave me." Yes, they did. But forgiveness isn't a reset button. It's a gift they give, while keeping their walls just a little higher than before. And when their patience finally ends, there's no explosion. There's no fight. There's only silence. That silence is where you'll feel the real ending. Because Cancers don't chase people who made them feel unsafe. They'll still smile. They'll still say, "I'm fine." But emotionally, they've left long before their body does. Now let's talk about something that might surprise you. Cancers listen like no one else. They'll sit with you for hours, letting you vent about your bad day. They'll absorb your anger, your sadness, your confusion. Not judging. Not interrupting. Just being there. They listen because they care. They want you to feel seen. To feel heard. To feel safe. But what most people never ask is, who listens to them? Cancers are patient until they realize no one asks how they're doing. Until they realize every conversation ends with their silence. And when that realization hits, they don't argue. They don't complain. They just shut down. Not because they've stopped feeling, but because they've given up trying. Trying to explain their needs. Trying to be heard. Trying to feel seen. Their silence isn't comfort. It's surrender. And once that silence takes over, rebuilding the connection is almost impossible. Because when someone like Cancer stops opening up, it means they no longer feel safe with you. Think about that next time you're with someone who's always listening to you. Ask yourself, when was the last time you listened to them? Because Cancers won't ask for it. They'll just disappear emotionally. And when you notice the change, it's often too late to fix it. What makes them powerful is that they don't need to shout to protect themselves. They use silence. And silence is the language of emotional self-respect. Now, here's something most people never expect from Cancer. They are the ones who will defend you in public, support you behind closed doors, and protect you from pain. But if you betray them, if you attack them emotionally, they can destroy you. Not with actions, but with words. Cancers don't like conflict. They don't seek arguments. But if you push them too far, if you weaponize their vulnerability against them, they'll fight back in the only way they know how. With precision. With brutal honesty. With emotional truths you didn't want to hear. Because remember, they've been listening all along. They know your fears. Your insecurities. Your hidden wounds. And if you force them to defend themselves, they'll use words like a mirror, showing you everything you've tried to hide. It's not revenge. It's release. After absorbing your pain for too long, they finally let go. And when they do, it's not loud. It's cold. It's controlled. It's devastating. Cancers are soft until you make them hard. They love with fire, but their anger is ice. And ice leaves scars that last. But here's the deeper truth. They don't enjoy hurting people. They do it only when pushed to the edge. When their heart has been bruised one too many times. And after the storm, they'll feel guilty. Even if you deserved every word. Because their nature is to heal, not to harm. But healing doesn't mean they'll forget. Or return to who they were before. Once their words have cut, their wall is up. And that version of them, the gentle, nurturing one, you'll never see again. They don't explode without reason. But when they do, it's final. Now let's talk about their patience. Cancers are patient, like the ocean is patient. Calm on the surface. But underneath, currents are moving. They'll wait for you. They'll give you chances. They'll try to understand why you're distant, why you're cold, why you're hurting them. They'll stay quiet during conflict, just to keep the peace. But every silent moment adds to the tide inside them. Every overlooked need, every unspoken hurt, fills the cup a little more. And one day, the cup overflows. And when it does, there's no fight. There's no argument. There's just absence. You won't see the breaking point coming. Cancers don't announce when they've had enough. They simply vanish. Emotionally. Physically. Energetically. And no apology will bring them back. Because for Cancer, walking away is not a threat. It's a decision. A silent one. Their patience isn't endless. It's just well hidden. By the time you realize they've reached their limit, you're already outside their life. That's what makes them impossible to control. Their breaking point is invisible, until it's irreversible. And once they're gone, they're gone. No warnings. No second chances. No dramatic farewell. Just emptiness. And the space they leave behind will remind you of what you lost every single day. So far, we've uncovered their loyalty, their silence, their hidden strength, and the cold precision of their emotional exits. But trust me, the final part of this video will take you even deeper. Because the last 3 truths about Cancer are the most powerful. And maybe the most controversial. Cancers hate conflict. They really do. They'll avoid arguments whenever possible. They'll choose silence over shouting. They'll swallow their pain just to keep the peace. But don't mistake that silence for weakness. Don't think they're quiet means they're okay. Because when a Cancer finally decides to set a boundary, they do it with a clarity that cuts deeper than any fight. They won't scream. They won't explain. They'll simply say, "I'm done." And when they say those words, they mean it. Or worse, they say nothing at all. They just remove you from their life. Calmly. Completely. That's how you know a Cancer has reached their limit. When their voice disappears, their decision is final. It confuses people. Why are they suddenly cold? Why do they seem so heartless now? The truth is, they're not being cold. They're protecting their emotional world. They're choosing themselves. And here's the psychological truth behind it. Cancers spend so much of their life trying to avoid conflict that when they finally draw a line, it means they've exhausted every other option. They didn't want to choose distance. They were forced to. That's why their boundaries seem so sharp, so sudden. Because in their heart, they've spent months, maybe years, hoping they wouldn't have to choose that path. When they finally set that boundary, they're already broken inside. And no amount of guilt, no apology, no regret can make them open that door again. Their boundaries are not a punishment. They're the end of hope. And when hope ends, so does the connection. Now, let's explore a side of Cancer that few people understand. They are home buddies. But not in the simple sense. For Cancer, home is not just a physical space. It's emotional. It's sacred. If you've ever been welcomed into a Cancer's personal space, you've been given access to their soul. They don't invite just anyone in. Behind their public kindness, their private world is locked, protected, guarded. And if you're lucky enough to be invited, understand this. You are special. You are trusted. You are inside their emotional home. But here's where the real power comes in. If you break that trust, if you disrespect their emotional space, you're not just pushed outside. You're erased. The door isn't just closed. The entire house disappears. One day you're in. The next, you don't even know where the door is anymore. And no matter how hard you knock, they won't answer. Because Cancer doesn't let the same person hurt them twice. Their emotional world is sacred. And once someone proves unworthy of it, access is revoked permanently. That's why they seem impossible to reach once you've betrayed them. You're not being ignored. You're no longer part of their story. And here's a lesson for all of us. Never take access to someone's vulnerability for granted. If someone trusts you with their inner world, protect it like it's your own. Because for Cancer, it is. Now, there's something even more painful people often don't realize about Cancer. They love endlessly. They give without keeping score. They show up even when they're tired. They remember your favorite meals. They check in when you're sick. They sit beside you in silence when words feel too heavy. But when they're drained, when their emotional cup is empty, they don't complain. They just stop. One day, the texts stop. The calls end. The door stays closed. And you won't get a reason why. Because when Cancer leaves, they don't leave in anger. They leave in silence. They've spent too long hoping you'd notice how much they gave. Hoping you'd value their presence. But when they realize you don't, they don't explain. They just vanish. Not out of hate. Not even out of hurt. But because there's nothing left to give. Their goodbye is silent. But it's final. And that silence will echo louder in your life than any screaming match ever could. If you're listening to this and wondering, have I lost someone like that? Maybe you have. Maybe you're only realizing now how much their quiet presence meant. And maybe this is your wake-up call to cherish the people who love you silently. Because when they're gone, they're truly gone. Now, let's dive into something even deeper. Cancers are empathy embodied. They feel what you're feeling before you say a word. They sense when something's wrong, even if you're smiling. But don't mistake their sensitivity for blindness. Cancers have sharp intuition. They don't just feel, they know. If something's off, they sense it. If your words don't match your energy, they notice. If your smile is forced, they catch it. And here's where people make a huge mistake. They assume Cancer doesn't see the lie. Because Cancer stays quiet. Because Cancer keeps giving. But inside, Cancer knows. They're watching. Remembering. Storing every inconsistency. And when the time comes, when their heart finally accepts the truth, they don't argue. They leave. Not because they're naive. But because they gave you every chance to be honest. Every opportunity to be real. And you chose otherwise. What makes Cancer impossible to manipulate is that their love isn't blind. It's patient. And when patience ends, connection ends. This is why many people feel shocked when a Cancer leaves. They thought everything was fine. But Cancer knew. Long before they walked away. They just waited for their heart to catch up to their intuition. That's the difference between kindness and naivety. Cancers are kind. But never naive. So, if you're lucky enough to have a Cancer in your life, remember this. Their empathy is a choice. Their love is a gift. Their presence is not guaranteed. Value it. Before their silence teaches you what you lost. And now, as we move closer to the heart of this story, get ready. Because the final 3 truths about Cancer are the most hidden, the most powerful, and perhaps the most painful of all. Cancers may seem fragile. You look at them and see softness, kind eyes, a gentle smile. You assume they're easy to hurt, easy to control, easy to break. But you're wrong. What people don't realize is that behind that soft exterior is a shell harder than steel. A quiet strength they rarely show. It's not loud. It's not obvious. It's not the kind of strength that shouts back or fights to prove itself. It's the kind that stays silent. The kind that endures. The kind that survives. Life doesn't treat sensitive people gently. And Cancers learn that early. They learn that not everyone deserves access to their feelings. They learn that sometimes, kindness becomes a weakness if it isn't protected. And so, they build that shell. Think about someone you know who's always calm in the face of pressure. Someone who seems like they absorb pain without reacting. That's the Cancer shell. It's not coldness. It's protection. When life pushes too hard, when people hurt too deeply, they retreat into that shell. Not to hide, but to heal. It's their way of saying, I've given enough. What makes them dangerous when provoked is that you think they're bending. But they're actually building. You see silence. They're gathering strength. You think they're about to break. They're about to walk away. Because for a Cancer, revenge isn't necessary. Their greatest power is distance. When they remove themselves from your life, they're not escaping. They're resetting. Rebuilding their peace. And when they choose peace over people, that's when you know they're gone for good. Now, let's talk about something few people understand. Being loved by a Cancer feels like coming home. Their presence wraps around you. Their care makes you feel safe, understood, accepted. They cook your favorite meals without you asking. They remember little details you forgot you shared. They make you feel chosen, even on your worst days. But here's the truth no one tells you. If you hurt them deeply, if you break their trust, you don't just lose their love. You lose your place in their world. It's not just a closed door. It's like the entire house disappears. You're erased. Not out of hate. Not even as punishment. But as self-preservation. Once Cancer decides you're unsafe, they don't block you out. They delete you emotionally. Quietly. Completely. And you'll stand outside, wondering what happened. Wondering why the home you once felt so safe in no longer exists. They won't explain. They won't argue. They won't give you closure. Because for Cancer, protecting their peace means removing you from the story. That's why their absence hits harder than anger ever could. If you're hearing this and it feels familiar, ask yourself, did you mistake their kindness for access? Did you think you'd always be welcome? With Cancer, access is a privilege, not a right. And once you lose it, you'll never find your way back in. Now, let's explore something even deeper. Cancers don't seek revenge. They don't waste energy plotting ways to hurt those who hurt them. Their soul doesn't work like that. What they do is more powerful. They simply walk away. They take their love, their care, their emotional warmth, and they remove it from your life. At first, you might not notice. You might think they're just being distant. But soon, life changes. Conversations feel colder. Days feel heavier. Things start going wrong. And you wonder why. People call it karma. But what really happens is simple. When someone good, someone genuine, someone who loved you without condition, disappears from your life, life notices. Their absence creates a vacuum. You don't lose a person. You lose emotional safety. You lose genuine love. Cancers don't need to hurt you. Life will do that for them. Because their presence wasn't ordinary. It was healing you in ways you didn't even realize. And now, that healing is gone. That's why cancers are impossible to control. They don't fight. They don't scream. They don't seek revenge. They heal. But their healing triggers your reckoning. Because once they remove their energy from your life, you're left facing yourself. And what you see might not be pretty. Now, here's something most people underestimate. Cancers love giving. Thoughtful gifts. Small gestures. Surprises you didn't expect. It's never random. Every gift, every note, every small act comes from their heart. They remember what matters to you, not because they have to, but because you matter to them. But here's the hidden truth. If you brush them off, if you ignore their gestures, if you make them feel like their effort doesn't matter, they won't argue. They'll just stop. No more gifts. No more surprises. No more warmth. One day, you'll notice their absence. The lack of care. The missing presence. And it'll hurt. Because you'll realize, what you once thought was ordinary, was actually rare. Cancers don't give because they're obligated. They give because you made them feel safe to do so. Take that safety away, and you take their love with it. Their love flows like water, but once the river dries, it never returns. If you're someone who's always waiting for others to show they care, ask yourself, are you valuing what they already give you? Because with Cancer, once their love stops flowing, no force can bring it back. And as we approach the final chapter of this story, prepare yourself. Because the last 3 truths about Cancer are not just insights. They're lessons that will change how you understand love, loss, and yourself. On the surface, Cancers may seem quiet, gentle, even a little reserved. But behind that softness lies an inner world few people ever get to see. Their heart is not just open. It's an ocean, full of memories, emotions, and quiet reflections. They feel more than they'll ever say. They carry stories, dreams, and fears like fragile glass inside them. They notice the details others miss. They remember the little moments you forgot. They see beauty in things most people never even notice. But here's the truth most people never understand. Not everyone gets access to that inner world. It's not for public display. It's not shared freely. You have to earn it. With trust. With consistency. With realness. Because to a Cancer, vulnerability is sacred. And once you break that trust, once you make them feel their openness was a mistake, the door closes. And it stays closed. You might still see their smile. You might still hear their polite words. But you'll feel the wall. You'll feel the distance. Because now, you're a tourist. Standing outside. Looking in. They'll let you see the surface. But their soul? Their heart? Their true feelings? Locked. That's what makes Cancers so impossible to control. Their love isn't given to everyone. And once taken for granted, it's never offered again. Remember this. Emotional access is not a right. It's a gift. And Cancer knows exactly when to stop giving it. Now, this brings us to the final truth. Cancers are water. Not just symbolically, but emotionally. They flow with you. They heal you. They refresh your soul. Being around them feels like standing near the ocean. Calm. Safe. Restful. They adapt to your emotions. They listen without needing explanations. They soothe wounds you didn't know you had. But here's where people make the biggest mistake. Water isn't always gentle. Push it. Hurt it. Contain it for too long, and it becomes a flood. Cancers hold back for as long as they can. They absorb. They adapt. They stay silent. But when their heart can't carry the pain anymore, when their emotional dam breaks, everything comes out. Not in small drops. In a tidal wave. You'll feel everything they've been holding back. Every unspoken truth. Every silent hurt. Every ignored need. And when that flood comes, nothing can stop it. Because their emotions are not controlled by pride. Not by ego. But by feeling. When they've been hurt too much, they don't explode out of hate. They explode because their soul cracked. Their flood isn't meant to drown you. It's meant to free themselves. But that doesn't make it any less overwhelming. So if you ever find yourself on the receiving end of a Cancer's emotional tsunami, understand this. It's not rage. It's release. A release that comes only after loving too much, for too long. And once the waters settle, the silence returns. Not as punishment. As peace. Because now, they're finally free. And that's the power of Cancer. Their love heals. But their absence transforms. Maybe you've met someone like this. Maybe you are someone like this. Someone who loves without limits, until loving becomes hurting. Someone who gives silently, until silence becomes survival. Someone who stays, until staying becomes breaking. If that feels familiar, I hope this video gave you clarity. Cancers aren't weak. They're not cold. They're not dramatic. They're water. They flow. They heal. They protect. But when hurt, they become the flood. And not everyone survives a flood. So, if you're lucky enough to have a Cancer in your life, cherish them. Listen when they go quiet. Respect their boundaries before they're forced to draw them. And if you've lost one, understand why. Their silence wasn't rejection. It was protection. For their heart. And maybe, for yours too. Thank you for being here, and for listening until the end. If you saw yourself in these words, if someone you love came to mind while listening, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button. And share this video with someone who needs to understand the quiet strength of Cancer. Because sometimes, understanding someone else helps us heal ourselves. There are so many more stories to tell. So many more truths to share. And I promise, the next video will take you even deeper. Until then, take care of your heart. And protect your peace.